the positions of WMBS Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to What's on Your Mind. I'm your host, Russ Rhodes. We have open conversation in hour 2 because I do have a guest here in hour 1, obviously. And you know Dr. Amy. We'll get to Dr. Amy just in a second here while I remind everybody that What's on Your Mind is brought to you by Tireman's Auto Garage, K2 Engineering, Coldwell Banker, Laurel Ridge Realty, Chestnut Ridge Counseling, Hicks & Boss Drugstore, Red Rooster Dumpster and Hauling, Gary's Auto Sales, and Bright Stripe Seal Coating and Line Striping. As I mentioned, a guest, Dr. Amy Neiswanger from the Alpha Veterinary Services down on Morgantown Street.
That's right.
Is that Smithfield?
You know what? It's technically Uniontown, but it's getting awfully close to Smithfield geographically for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. So, but we're here talking about dog and cat care and everything, as we've done a couple times in the past. So again, thanks for coming on in, Doc.
It's my pleasure. I love coming in.
Yeah, it's always a fun time. So, I guess, let's start off here at the very beginning here. We're getting into the colder months, and so often we come to the question of, do I need to continue my flea and tick medicine? It's cold, they're not out there, so why do I need to bother doing that? So is that the case, or have things changed?
Yeah, so this is a fantastic question that I get asked multiple times daily. So historically, we didn't have to worry about ticks as much as we do now. Probably within the past 10 years, ticks have entered our area. And what ticks have are some tick-borne diseases, specifically Lyme. Most people know about Lyme disease. They might know someone who has Lyme disease.
Right.
Anaplasma and Ehrlichia. And
I've not heard of those two. What are those?
Yeah, so they're similar to Lyme in as far as they are microscopic organisms that are they live within the tick after they've bitten a host that has those organisms in them, and then they do enter the dog's bloodstream with the tick bite. And Lyme disease causes the classic things that we all sort of know about, which is swollen, painful joints, fever, decreased appetite, and in worst case scenarios can cause kidney failure and even death of the dog, which is terrible. Ehrlichia and Anaplasma are a little bit different. They tend to cause decreased platelet counts. And when we have a dog that has Ehrlichia or Anaplasma, we see bruising, we see bleeding in places where they shouldn't be bleeding. They luckily all have sort of the same treatment, which is an antibiotic, but the very best thing is prevention of the disease to begin with. You don't want your dog to be exposed to these if at all possible. And there's really only one way to do that, and that is good, effective tick prevention year-round.
Year-round.
That's right.
Okay.
And the reason is that ticks are active anytime the temperature is above 35 degrees. So you may think, we live in Pennsylvania. How many days in the winter really get above 35? We all think it's very cold all year, and we, get tired of the cold and all that. But I actually brought a calendar that shows 2024 daily temperatures in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to show this. And any day that has a red circle is a day that was above 35 degrees.
Wow.
And any day with a blue circle, it did not get above 35. So only 20 days out of 2024 in Pittsburgh where would we not have had ticks being active. That doesn't even mean that they were dead. It just means they weren't active. So
They were kind of sleeping.
They were sleeping. At least they weren't trying to get on your dog and cat. That's right.
Yeah.
So yes, so we say they don't need tick prevention every day, but they absolutely need it every month of the year. And we see a lot of dogs becoming positive by not getting prevention during these winter months.
All right. Wow. Interesting. And is there a time that weather plays a factor as far as killing off tick population?
Yeah, it takes awfully cold weather, less than 10 degrees, for an extended period of time just to reduce the number of ticks in the area. That doesn't even kill all of them. So, it's not very common for it to be less than 10 degrees over a long period of time in our area to make really any kind of a measurable difference in ticks. At least it hasn't been the past few years.
Okay, and of course, if they've got a blanket of snow above them, that insulates them.
It insulates them, and they're under there. And as soon as it gets above 35, they're getting on your dog and cat and you potentially.
Okay. So does the same does the same thing apply to fleas?
So that's a great question. So fleas are easier to kill. I don't know the exact temperatures, but they definitely are easier to kill outside and even inside. And the good thing about fleas, if there's a good thing about fleas, is they don't tend to spread diseases, and so they're a nuisance and it can make dogs really uncomfortable. But yeah, so the ticks are harder to kill. So if ticks are out, fleas probably are. Also.
So heartworm. Does that come from fleas or ticks?
Yeah, great question. Neither.
Oh.
Heartworm comes from mosquitoes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So mosquitoes are, what they will do is they will bite a dog that has heartworm and then bite your dog, and that is how heartworm is transmitted. Now, this also has changed in the past, I would say, in the past 20 years. We didn't used to have very much heartworm in our area, say 20 years ago. But one thing changed that, and that was Hurricane Katrina. Because dogs rescued from Hurricane Katrina, many of them had heartworm, they were rescued to northern states.
Oh, okay.
So it actually brought a population of heartworm-positive dogs to our area. And it really only takes one bite from one mosquito. And these worms actually live in the dog's heart and the blood vessels in the lungs. So that is a very serious thing. So mosquitoes...
And they're not easy to get rid of, are they?
They are not. No, the treatment for heartworm is actually 3 injections deep into the muscle of your dog's back that are similar to arsenic. It's a pretty nasty stuff, and it's very, very painful for the dog. And no matter how early you catch the disease by testing, the damage has already been done, even if we find it early and treat them. So 100% prevention of heartworm is the goal. We don't want to let your dog get heartworm disease because it is absolutely terrible.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. So, not that we're keeping an eye out for that, but so in the other idea of triage, though.
Oh, yes.
What do I want to look at, or if my dog has a cut or is limping all of a sudden or lethargic, what do I need to look for to make a decision that okay, he just sprained his foot from running, or there's something more serious and I need to consult with you?
Sure. And this is also an excellent question because many people want to be very proactive about their dog's health and always think, what if there was something I could have done? So they always want to know, when should I bring them in? When is it okay to wait? So there are a couple times that I would say it's always seeking emergency care. One of them is going to be any kind of laboring to breathe, especially if the gums or the tongue or any kind of a blue or purple color. This definitely means your dog or cat's not getting enough oxygen. Or if your dog is not feeling well, or cat, and you look at their gums or their tongue and they're very pale or white, this would be a medical emergency to seek care right away. This is a less common thing, but if your dog or cat has been in labor and trying to have puppies or kittens for about 30 to 45 minutes, having contractions with no puppy or kitten past, definitely get to an emergency clinic. Abdomens becoming swollen very suddenly, especially if the gums are pale or your dog's acting very sick. Seizures lasting more than 5 to 10 minutes. Sudden loss of the ability to walk if your dog suddenly can't use their hind limbs, that sort of thing. These are all things that may, be very, very serious and life-threatening for your dog. And these are always the thing to just seek care right away. Other things that can wait. If your dog is limping, but is still eating, is still drinking, is still having, normal activity, a lot of times people just wait a day or two and see if they get better. And I think that's not wrong at all. Now, of course, if you want your dog to be evaluated, That's never wrong, of course. But if you're very busy, you'd have to take time off work or something like that. If your dog's acting pretty normally, doing their normal things, or like you said, a cut on their leg that isn't bleeding to the point where it can't be stopped, those are things that they can, even not eating for a part of a day, as long as they're still pretty much themselves, you could usually wait. But if they're acting, dogs can't tell us they're not okay, but they can, because they change their routines. They go to different places in the house. And anytime your dog or cat are just not being themselves, it's at least time to call and see, if someone at the vet clinic thinks they should come right in.
Is a cold nose, is that just an old wives' tale, or is that an actual thing? Oh, your nose is cold, you're okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. So people ask me that all the time too. I think that it is an old wives' tale, but I do think that dogs that are sick and dehydrated, their noses are kind of dry, and you can normally tell that there's some other things going on, along with it. So, but the cold nose thing, I mean, while we love it with our dogs, I think it doesn't tell us as much as we wish it did.
Okay, all right, but it might be a little clue though.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right.
Then there's some things you can do at home. We talked about this one time before, but Benadryl is a very safe medication to give to your pet. It doesn't fix all the things people think it should, like itchiness and that sort of thing. But if your dog, say, is stung by a bee, Benadryl is something that you can give. You can call your vet for the dose, or it's about 1 milligram per pound. So I always tell people, I don't think that there's any reason to not give Benadryl, especially if they were stung. Luckily, we don't normally see the respiratory issues that they see in people. So typically, if they're stung, they'll have a swollen face, or maybe they'll get hives or be really itchy. So a lot of times Benadryl at home fixes them up, and you don't need to seek emergency care as long as they're acting okay.
Is there a difference between a pill tablet and the liquid Benadryl?
Yeah, not really. Only the dose. So a tablet is 25 milligrams, and the liquid is 12.5 milligrams per teaspoon. So you have to get an awful lot into a larger dog if you try the liquid.
All right.
But that's good for small dogs, though, and cats.
So in Sebastian's case, he's roughly about 70 pounds. Yep. So giving him 3?
I would give him 2 or 3. Yep,
okay.
Exactly.
All right.
It gets to the point, if you give more than about 2 or 3, it doesn't seem to help any more than just the lower dose, and they just get really sleepy.
Okay.
But an interesting thing about Benadryl is a small percentage of dogs will actually get really hyper after taking Benadryl.
All right.
And so it goes the opposite way, and instead of getting sleepy, they actually get really, really hyper. And so that's when you have an energetic dog, that can be a lot.
Maybe that was Puppy Uppers on Saturday Night Live. I don't know. I don't know if you remember that skit or not.
No, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's. We'll talk about that off the air.
Yeah, it sounds good. Other things that can be done at home, like you talked about a cut. So topical antibiotic ointments, even ones made for people, can be used in dogs and cats. So Neosporin and that sort of thing.
Okay. Should you cover it up with like a Band-Aid of some kind, a gauze wrap to keep them from licking that off then?
Ironically, I actually like wounds to be left open to the air, but sometimes the dog does or cat does lick it off. And while I don't think it harms them to lick the ointment off, it just doesn't help them. But yeah, what I tell people normally is, once you put something like that on your pet, maybe take them for a walk or feed them or play with them, for about 10 minutes, because then that kind of lets the medicine work, and then they don't have to worry so much about them licking it off.
Licking their wounds. I've heard, and again, I don't know if this is an old wives' tale, but is there like healing properties in a dog's lick? I've heard people say, let your dog lick your wound, that it'll help heal it faster.
Ugh, no.
No, okay.
Also, no. So their mouths have a lot of bacteria in them, of course, especially if they have dental disease or a lot of tartar.
Okay.
And I feel that dogs and cats, they will lick wounds because they're painful. And the more they lick them, they can actually cause more trauma to the skin and keep it from healing. So definitely, number one thing that we tell people wounds, surgical or naturally occurring kind of abrasions and cuts and things, much better if they're dry and if the dog is not licking. But that is such a common thing that we hear all the time. But no.
Okay. You see a lot of clickbait on the internet. And one of them is dogs licking their paws a lot.
Yes.
Is that really a thing, or is that just, again, clickbait?
Yeah, so I think that so many dogs lick their paws. There's a couple different reasons that they can do that. The number one, I would say, is allergies, and especially if they have food or environmental allergies to things like grasses and weeds. So people tell me their dog walks outside, they come in and they lick their feet a lot, or with a food allergy, they lick their feet. So yes, dogs lick their feet a lot, and then I think people want an easy solution. So a lot of those clickbait things are things that are treatments that are not really very effective. So when you have a dog that's licking their feet, we need to make sure that they don't have a secondary bacterial or yeast infection. And a lot of times that's when they get that sort of like brown, greasy, we say it smells like Fritos kind of a thing. And so those need to be treated medically. So we need to treat that yeast infection, treat that bacterial infection, and then get to the underlying cause. And a lot of the, let's say, recommended treatments online are not going to help very much at all.
This is still allergies, but it's going to go back to a previous topic here. With humans, there is from a possible reaction to a tick bite, that humans become allergic now to red meat.
Yes, that's true.
In fact, I just read something. The first death in the country has been attributed to that.
Yes.
That ailment. Same thing with dogs?
No.
Can they get? No?
Yeah, we're not seeing that, but that is such an up and coming problem with people because ticks are so prevalent right now. And I've heard that they have certain restaurants in certain areas of the country that actually serve no red meat at all because of people being in such danger when they once they develop that allergy. And that is lifelong after that happens. And I'm hoping, and this is maybe getting out of my lane a little bit, but I'm actually hoping that there will someday be some kind of a prevention for people.
Yeah.
We use these all the time in dogs and cats, and, we're trying to protect them. And I think humans, unfortunately, are walking around unprotected out in the woods getting tick bites a lot.
A human gets Lyme disease, and it's a long course of medications and everything to get that cleared up. But a dog, it's very easy.
It really is. Unless they get the Lyme nephritis, which is the type of Lyme disease that affects their kidneys, which then that can actually be fatal. That's really rare, thank goodness. But we treat them with the antibiotic, and then they get better really fast. And they don't have the chronic malaise and sort of issues that people have. So we're really lucky in that way. And we also have a really low percentage of dogs getting clinically sick from being exposed. So when we do that, we call it a 4DX test. So heartworm, Lyme, Ehrlichia, Anaplasma. Once a year, it's a blood test. That just tells us your dog was exposed to those things, meaning it had a tick. But that does not mean they'll get sick. So we're really lucky. But we see a lot. Several a day I usually get on average.
Okay. All righty. We're talking with Dr. Amy Neiswanger from the Alpha Veterinary Services down the southern part of Uniontown on Old Morgantown Street. We got to take a quick little break. When we come back, let's move into allergies and food and all that kind of fun topics as well for our pets.
Sounds great.
All right. This is What's on Your Mind. I'm Russ Rhodes. More with Dr. Amy after this.
Attention Medicare eligible recipients. The Medicare open enrollment period for 2026 runs from October 15th until December 7th. This is the time to call local agent Brenda Myers at 724-437-7255 and let her show you the various Medicare Advantage plans and Part D prescription drug plans and see which best fits your current healthcare needs and your budget. Brenda will also update you on the changes for 2026 and how they will affect you. With many years' experience, Brenda Myers can help you decide which plan will work best for you. Brenda Myers has been helping Medicare beneficiaries with their health care insurance for many years and represents a variety of companies to offer you more choices. This open enrollment period gives you an opportunity to make changes to your health care plan and save money. Call Brenda Myers today at 724-437-7255. That's 724-437-7255. 7255 for Brenda Myers.
Black and gold up on their feet. Terrible towel swirling.
When you listen here, you get all the excitement of Steelers football.
Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Rob King brings you the play-by-play along with Max Starks and Missy Matthews.
Where would you rather be?
The only place to be on game day is the Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.
The 6-4 Steelers head to Chicago to take on the 7-3 Bears Sunday at 1 o'clock on your Steelers station, WMBS.
Hello, I'm attorney Jamie Davis from the law firm of Davis & Davis. We've been helping the great people of Dade County for over 45 years with personal injury claims. If you are hurt or injured, call our law firm for your free consultation. The insurance companies are not on your side. Call us today at 724-437-2799. Either myself or an attorney from our office will personally come out and meet with you. If you're in an accident or hurt, call us at Davis & Davis, 724-437-2799 for your free consultation. Let us fight for
Go
you.
to Florida Uniontown and trade me in.
John Clinton with Dominic Carpone from your 7-time President's Award-winning Florida Uniontown. Dom, I have exciting news to share. Santa showed up early with a heap of holiday savings. Black Friday sale all month long.
Check out this offer. How about 2025 F-150 XL and XLT models? Save up to $7,000 off and you get these great rates as well. How about 2.9 for 60 months, 3.9 for 72, and only 4.9 for 84. Or get this, you can take advantage of 0% financing for 5 years.
Dang, Dom. Any other holiday cheer you want to throw around?
Well, John, old St. Nick said, let's move some Explorers as well. Save up to $3,000 off 2025 Explorer, and these rates will make the Tom the Turkey blush. 2.9 for 60 months, 3.9 for 72, and that's right, 4.9 for 84 months.
Dom, pre-owned? We got them. Over 70 online, and most are certified with factory warranty. Your sleigh knows, shouldn't you? That's 40 Uniontown on the hill across from Applebee's or 40uniontown.com. Offer codes on factory incentives, must finance support letter credit, not all buyers qualify.
Your mental health is your most valuable asset. With 55 years of experience serving Western Pennsylvania, Chestnut Ridge Counseling Services is ready and able to assist you with all of your mental health needs. Offering over 20 specialized treatments, open access, and just-in-time scheduling means that you receive the treatment you need in a time-conscious fashion. Chestnut Ridge Counseling now offers telehealth, mental health urgent care with immediate access to a mental health professional with no appointment necessary. Call 724-437-0729. That's 724-437-0729 for mental health urgent care at Chestnut Ridge Counseling. Outpatient care options include individual, group, and family therapies, mental health and psychiatric evaluations, and medication services. Outpatient care and services are also available for patients under the age of 18, geared towards youth-centric problems and concerns. Take control of your mental health care with Chestnut Ridge Counseling Services. Call 724-437-0729 to set up an appointment or speak immediately with a mental health professional.
And welcome back to What's on Your Mind. I'm Russ Rhodes, your host, here with Dr. Amy Neiswanger from Alpha Veterinary Services out on Morgantown Street, talking about dog and cat care. So, little more on that to come here.
Yeah.
All right, continue with allergies a little bit. Let's go into food allergies.
Yeah.
If we can on that.
For sure. So I think that food allergies in dogs and cats is one of the most difficult thing to really understand because it's so different than it shows up in people. So what we don't see in dogs and cats is that sudden, acute sort of anaphylaxis. You think of somebody who eats a peanut if they're allergic, or a piece of shrimp or something like that. So what happens is they get ear infections or chronically itchy feet, things of that nature, or anal gland issues that are really recurrent, especially if it happens year-round. Then we always think of a food allergy, and it's just a kind of a bizarre connection between the food and the symptoms, so a lot of times people don't really think about it that way. But when they're allergic to their food, they're allergic to the protein, the meat protein. So chicken, beef, pork, lamb for dogs. And cats, often it's the more like tuna and salmon and things that they normally eat. They can be allergic to anything they've eaten in the past. So if you have a puppy eating all of those proteins, plus salmon, plus venison, plus bison, all of those are potential allergens in the future. So first of all, I recommend puppies only eating normal proteins for their dog food, like chicken, beef, pork, lamb, and cats the normal as well. But when they become allergic, there's no test that we can perform to tell us what they're allergic to. And that is one thing that people try. There are tests available online, and people do them, but they're not useful in real life, and they don't really tell us what the dogs are allergic to.
So it's a waste of money then.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And people bring me lists and lists and lists of things their dogs are allergic to, and it is just, it's not true. So the only thing we can do in dogs and cats is what's called an elimination diet. So we have to eliminate any possible protein that they could be allergic to for a minimum of 8 to 12 weeks before we even evaluate if that new diet's working.
Okay.
So you can imagine how frustrating that can be if you've been very compliant for 4 to 6 weeks and you're still not seeing a result. It does take a long time. So, but I always say if it is a food allergy, then, and you find the right diet, you have a diagnosis and a treatment all in one, and your dog or cat has to eat anyway, so they might as well be eating a food that keeps them out of the vet clinic.
Yeah.
Not being treated for ear infections over and over again.
Okay. So in other words, if your dog is having one of these symptoms, you want to look at the ingredients.
Yes.
On the bag or can of whatever you're feeding them.
That's right.
And if it's a combination, say chicken and beef, you want to go with one that's just chicken.
Yep. Or
for a
well,
while, or just beef for a while. You want to eliminate.
You actually want to eliminate those and maybe think of salmon as a protein. And you said you hit the nail on the head. You have to look at the ingredients. I was just talking to a client this morning, and the outside of the bag said it was salmon and tuna. And we read the ingredients, and the very second ingredient was chicken. So it can be very, very difficult, and it can be hard to eliminate those things. And then you have to also eliminate it in any treats, any foods, any, if your dog gets into the cat food or your neighbor gives them a treat, it can be quite difficult to really eliminate everything. But if you find the right diet and eliminate those things, their signs and symptoms go away and you don't have to have them treated anymore.
Yeah.
Always the goal. And then we also have a little bit of confusion between food allergies and environmental allergies that are indoors. So the second type of allergies in dogs and cats are what we call environmental. Outside and inside. So outside are going to be grasses and weeds and trees. These are going to be seasonal. Tree allergies in the spring, grasses and weeds are going to be summer and fall.
And this is like pollen, tree pollen, grass
exactly.
pollen.
That's
is that
right.
what we're looking at?
Yep.
Okay, so same thing that you and I might be allergic to.
But they're not going to have the same types of like hay fever that dogs that people have. They don't get the runny eyes and sneezing. They get itchy skin. So we call it allergic skin disease or allergic dermatitis, and that's again where it differs from people. And unfortunately, antihistamines don't work for that. Even though I always say you can give Benadryl to your dog, it's not going to help with itchy skin when it comes to allergic skin disease. And the interesting thing where we live, your dog is not going to be allergic to grasses and weeds in January and February. While the ticks are out all year round, those things are not.
Go away.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if your dog is allergic in January and February, that really narrows it down for us. So this is either a food allergy, because that's non-seasonal and year-round, or an indoor allergen. Everyone hates it when I talk about this one, but dust mites are a huge allergen for dogs and cats, and they will be a year-round issue. And they can be difficult to tell the difference between that and a food allergy.
Okay. And that these things still apply to cats as well as dogs?
Indeed, yes. And like I said, we don't mean to have them be secondary citizens, but yes, absolutely. So they will have exactly the same allergies. They can have environmental allergies. They can have food allergies. We just don't have as many of the great treatments for them, unfortunately, but there are definitely things that can be done for these guys. And in cats, the main allergy that they have is to fleas. So the third allergy type we see in dogs and cats is flea allergies. In dogs, it's usually going to be around the base of the tail. They're going to be itchy and biting and that sort of thing. Often you'll see fleas or flea dirt. Cats, 90 or 95% of itchy cats have a flea allergy, but you often don't find the fleas on them because they're grooming themselves so much.
Okay.
So a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, my cat can't have fleas. I don't find any, but my cat's itchy. Every time we're going to be treating that cat for fleas, because 90 to 95% of the time, we're going to actually get them better just by treating fleas.
Okay. Interesting. Staying with food, is there a difference between moist dog cat food and kibble dog cat food, and even you were seeing a lot of commercials for the, I don't know, the organic.
Yes.
The
people food,
yes,
dog and cat food
type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a fantastic question. So I'm actually going to start with cats on this one.
Okay.
So for cats, they need to eat a very high protein, low carbohydrate, and preferably high moisture content diet. So for cats, it's preferred that they eat predominantly canned food, and they actually can eat completely 100% of their diet can be canned food.
Okay.
It's just not as convenient for the owners to have canned food as a diet, so most people have at least some dry for cats. But cats, it doesn't affect their dental health, and it gets more moisture into them. And if I have a cat that's overweight, I'm actually going to be decreasing the dry and increasing the canned as much as we can, because that can actually help them to lose some weight too.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it give them more energy and therefore they burn it off more? Is that it?
So in the kibble cat foods, they are higher in carbohydrates, which cats can eat carbohydrates, but they do not really require it in their diets like dogs do. So they don't really have enough or a way to process them as well as dogs. So they can't have as much carbohydrates in their diet without gaining a lot of weight.
Okay.
And then for dogs, I do feel the opposite. So I don't feel that dogs need canned food and should not be on a canned diet exclusively, mostly because of their teeth. So when dogs chew kibble, they are rubbing the plaque off their teeth and helping, to keep the tartar from building up. Mm-hmm. And that is actually one of my biggest concerns with this sort of newer fresh food kind of movement that is happening is, are these dogs really going to have very significant dental disease from eating these foods? And now there is a new type of bladder stone that we were never finding before, and it's dogs eating these fresh diets are getting a special kind of bladder stone that we never saw before. So I would say, a lot of people follow trends and fads, and the idea of feeding fresh food I think is not bad, but I just think sometimes we really embrace this new type of food before we really see as if it's the best idea for dogs. And I'm going to use the example of grain-free diets. So people thought that grain-free meant healthier because higher in protein, less in corn, and those sorts of things. But we found out that grain-free diets lacked something, we don't know what it is, but was causing heart disease in dogs that normally wouldn't have gotten heart disease. So I just will caution anyone who is going forward with the fresh foods that we may not know all of the negative things that could be happening long-term from feeding these diets. And there may not be anything, but we don't know that yet.
Okay. All righty. So, interesting. So hear that? I'm feeding you the right way.
Yeah, I do like to see dogs eating. I like the larger name brand dog foods because they have been in business for a long time, and they do lots of research. And I think there's a consumer or client perception that these dog foods are somehow not as good as some of these other boutique or fresh foods, and I just don't think that that's true. Veterinary nutritionists are still standing behind these more traditional diets.
Okay. All right. That's nice to know. What else do we... So, on that, we'll segue into human food.
Yes.
So, I know there's times, I've called in for whatever animal, dog at the time, was thrown up or something, and, feed them rice and chicken.
Boiled chicken and rice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes,
that's exactly true. And so I will say this is only not true if your dog has a food allergy.
Right.
So if your dog does not have a food allergy, or your cat, and they have mild GI upset, and I guess this goes back also to what we can do at home for dogs and cats if they're not truly sick. Feeding a bland diet of boiled chicken and rice or boiled ground beef and rice can always be the first step anytime your dog has vomiting and diarrhea, as long as they're otherwise acting okay. Sometimes it clears them right up.
Okay.
And in fact, a dog with a food allergy, you can use scrambled eggs, and you can also use some fish. Like some people use tilapia and salmon and that sort of thing. Noodles are also okay. So again, as long as
for an upset
tummy. Yep, exactly. But then, of course, with Thanksgiving coming up, we know that there are things that you should not give to your dogs and
There you
cats.
go. Yeah.
And the number one thing for me is turkey, and that's just because of the season. And turkey is not toxic to dogs, but it has a really high fat content compared to chicken. And even though it sounds very strange, many, many dogs do not tolerate eating turkey. And especially the sort of like the darker meat. And what happens is they get severe gastrointestinal upset, and some dogs will even be more sick with pancreatitis and need hospitalization.
Ooh.
So for Thanksgiving, I would avoid the turkey.
Mm-hmm.
I would avoid the gravy because that's going to be also high in fat. And really, if you wanted to give your dog like even, a little piece of bread from the stuffing, that wouldn't be the end of the world. And maybe even like a roasted sweet potato that doesn't have a lot of sugar or something on it. But yeah, you don't want to, and some dogs do fine with turkey. So some people tell me, I give my dog turkey every year and they don't get sick. Great. But if you don't know, you may want to not do it because you may be calling me on Friday.
Yeah. What about pumpkin pie?
Yeah, so I think that, in a very small amount, I don't think it would be wrong for a dog that, doesn't have a sensitive system.
Mm-hmm.
Many dogs don't tolerate anything different in their diet. And a lot of people find that out very quickly and then just stop giving their dogs anything different. And some people need to have that lesson learned a couple times before they stop giving their dog something.
What about cranberry?
Yeah, so cranberries should be okay. We even give cranberry supplements to dogs for urinary tract health and cats. So I think as long as there's not a lot of sugar in it or any artificial sweeteners, I don't think that would be a bad thing.
Okay, all righty. Well, guess what? It's time for another break. That flew past.
I know.
So we'll do that. We'll come back and touch on a few other subjects that we haven't and kind of close out today's show. All right. This is What's on Your Mind with Dr. Amy Neiswanger from Alpha Veterinary Services. More about your dog and cat care after this.
Hey, you looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle? Well, look no more, because with over 200 vehicles, Gary's Auto Sales is the largest used car dealer in the area. Whether you want a car, a truck, or an SUV, you'll absolutely find what you're looking for at Gary's. Gary's has been in business since 1974. You can visit them online at Gary'sAutoSales.com, or you can give them a call at 724-626-8080. Gary's Auto Sales. Many miles, many smiles.
Ready to score big on your next home? Well, great news. Huge savings are waiting for you at Clayton Homes of Bell Vernon. From open floor plans perfect for game day parties to energy-efficient homes that will help you save money all season long, these homes are built to deliver. Don't wait on the sidelines. Make the winning play today and find the home that fits your family and lifestyle. Visit Clayton Homes of Bell Vernon at 4500 Route 51.
One of the most incredible architectural masterpieces in the United States is right here in Fayette County. And this fall is your chance to see the work being done to preserve this national treasure as work continues to fortify Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water, a world-famous work of architecture that's on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Falling Water invites you to Fayette County Appreciation Day on Sunday, November 23rd to see their multi-year historic preservation effort in action, in addition to the always breathtaking home itself. Falling Water is offering free tours for Fayette County residents on Sunday, November 23rd. Book your free tour of Falling Water in advance by calling 724-329-8501. Falling Water's Preservation in Action tours will take place between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. Be sure to make your reservation in advance and don't miss your chance to witness this once-in-a-lifetime preservation tour of Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water. It's a day that ends in Y, so it's a day that you might decide you don't want to cook. That means it's the perfect day to order Fat Angelo's. Offering delicious pizzas, salads, hoagies, strombolis and calzones, wings, and more, and with 12 locations across the area ready to serve you, today is the day to visit FatAngelosPizza.com, where you can quickly and conveniently find your local shop and place your order online, or get the local phone number and give them a call. Order up!
Are you looking to list or sell your house? Now is the time to let the professionals at Caldwell Banker Laurel Ridge Realty help you with all of your real estate needs. Caldwell Banker Laurel Ridge Realty has 2 convenient locations to better serve you. In Uniontown area, 724-437-7100, or in Connellsville area, 724-628-7200, and speak with one of our real estate professionals. Visit our website, caldwellbanker.com. We have been proudly serving Western Pennsylvania area for over 30 years and look forward to helping you with all of your real estate needs. Broker Paul Borges Jr.
They're all coming to your house again for the holidays. Your favorite aunt and uncle from out of town. Friends from across the state. Remember last Thanksgiving when Joe seemed to eat more turkey and stuffing than the chair could support? Remember when the table legs seemed to cry out with all the food weighing it down? Wouldn't it be nice to enjoy a hearty dinner amongst all your family and friends while sitting around a charming dining set from Chesler's Fine Furniture and not having to hold your breath every time someone sits down? Chesler's can make it all possible with a wide variety of graceful and pleasing styles that will offer elegance for your dining area. If you are looking for a formal set, select a 2-tone gray and oak set, sale priced at $19.99 with a matching buffet at $12.99. Maybe you just need a small 5-piece set. They are priced starting at $5.99. Chesler's has a large selection of 3, 5, and 7-piece sets ready for immediate delivery. Credit terms and delivery are available. Chesler's Fine Furniture, where customers send their friends.
Welcome back to What's on Your Mind. Russ Rhodes, Dr. Amy Neiswanger, talking about your dog and cats. Health insurance for our pets.
Yes.
Worth it? I know it's becoming more and more of a thing.
Yes.
Is it worth it?
I think that yes, it can be.
Okay.
And I think that's also something that has changed over the past, few years. So a few things to look for. So the first thing about dog and cat pet insurance, or any animal, is that you will have to pay the bill up front.
Okay.
And they will return a portion of it back to you.
Oh, okay.
So that is something that I think people should take into consideration when considering health insurance. If you are able to sort of pay for a large bill and then get the money back, it's definitely worth it.
Okay.
If that's not something that works for you, you may just want to take the money you would spend on the health insurance and put it in a savings account for your dog or cat.
Mm-hmm.
But I would watch there should be different levels of coverage. And I would not recommend one that is only for accidents or very serious injuries, because hopefully that would be a rare occurrence and that you wouldn't need it. And I also don't know that you necessarily need health insurance for wellness type visits, because you'll spend a lot more money on that policy. And there's sort of a middle of the road policy that will cover things that are more common, like vomiting and diarrhea or ear infections and things like that. And what you will do is you'll decide what the percentage back you want, and also what your deductible is, maybe the payout for the year, and then they'll give you a price per month. And as long as you start with your pet before they have a pre-existing condition, then I absolutely think it is worth it to start when they're very young, paying a low premium every month and having that on hand. So I do think it's important to think about that in young animals especially.
Do you know, does that premium, if you start when they're a 6-month-old puppy, the cost, whatever that may be, is that going to stay the same all the way through the life of the dog, or is that premium still going to go up as your dog ages?
I've heard, and I don't know if all the different companies are the same, but I have heard some other veterinarians talking about how it does go up over time. So that would be a great question to ask, when you are looking into it. I find it interesting that some employers are now including pet health insurance in benefits for people. So you can look for that for your next employer.
You can negotiate on a new job on that.
Yeah.
We only have about 30 seconds. Is there something we need to touch base on real quick before we...
Well, I did want to brag a little bit about my clinic.
I was hoping you would.
So I'm so happy to announce that we've been named one of America's best animal hospitals for 2026 by Newsweek.
That is fantastic.
Yes, I'm so proud. Thank you. And the list is available
because that's
online.
not just local, that's nationwide.
Nationwide, yep. Yeah. I guess they looked at, I don't know, maybe 10,000 hospitals, and in Pennsylvania they named about 50. So we're very, very proud, and I'm proud of my staff and my doctors.
Fantastic. You know, we'll give you some free phone number real quick for you if somebody wants to schedule an appointment.
724-550-4005.
All right, Dr. Amy, thank you so much for coming on. We'll do this again. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next time.
My pleasure.
In the meantime, CBS News is in progress. This is WMBS Uniontown.
Dean's abuse spoke out earlier.
I was a child. I was in 9th grade. I was hopeful for life and what the future had held for me. He stole a lot from me.
House Speaker Mike Johnson.
From the very beginning, our side has been insistent that this matter must be handled very carefully and with utmost caution and care for the victims. We want maximum transparency. We have always been about that. We want every single person who had any scintilla of evidence that they were involved in the Epstein evils, they need to be brought to justice, and it should have been done a long time ago.
It isn't clear what will happen in the Senate, and President Trump has called for an investigation into Epstein's relations with some Democrats. Scott McFarland reports that complicates matters.
It's unclear what of those files, assuming the Senate signed off on this and didn't amend the bill, assuming the House passes it, assuming the president signs it, it's unclear what of this cache of unknown records will be held back, because there are still some pending issues involving people involved with the Epstein crimes.
President Trump hosted Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince today, his first White House visit since the killing of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi by Saudi agents. Reporters asked the Crown Prince about it.
It's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc. in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
This just in, a panel of federal judges has blocked Texas from using a new congressional map that Republicans